this complex circuits lab just to go over a few important pieces of this to hopefully help you guys as you're working through the lab. So for this lab, we're going to be using the same simulator we used before for part 1 of the Intro to Circuits lab, where you had to turn on the light bulb, but we're going to be building slightly more complicated circuits. We're going to start with looking at series circuits and parallel circuits. You can see the basic difference here. A series circuit is just one continuous loop. That's what the circuit diagram would look like. In terms of the physical layout of the circuit, it would be 2 light bulbs here, so the current must go through each light bulb as it goes around. A parallel circuit has different branches, different pathways, as you see here. And this is what the actual diagram or the physical layout would look like. We see the circuit splits and the current can go through one of these 2 light bulbs before continuing on around. Now, when we go and do our lab, what you're going to see is you're going to be given a circuit diagram that looks like this down here. Okay, and you're going to have to translate that circuit diagram into an actual circuit using the virtual simulator. So just as a quick refresher, this was in the notes, but this symbol here, the squiggly line, that indicates a resistor. For the purposes of this lab, our resistors are just going to be light bulbs. They act as resistors. Obviously, they give off light as well, but we're going to use them as resistors. And this symbol here indicates a battery. So let's talk a little bit about how you actually go about building one of these circuits. So I'm going to go to my circuit lab here and start running it. We're just going to use the intro one. There's no need for the lab one itself. And here I see my list of different elements that I can take advantage of. So I have a battery here. I can drag that on out. I have different light bulbs and I have wires. And so those are going to be the basic elements we're going to use to create this circuit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of the circuits that you're going to need to build in this lab. Now this is one of the more complicated ones intentionally. And we're just going to work through exactly how we would go about creating that particular circuit. So there you see the circuit that you're building off to the side there. There's our battery, 1, 2, 3 resistors, and we're going to put it together. So I'm going to start with my battery here. I'll put that battery like that. It doesn't actually matter which way you orient the battery. Technically this says the positive ends up, but that doesn't really matter in the end. And then I'm going to have from there a wire, and that's going to go to my first light bulb. All right, and then I'm going to drag out another wire. All right, so I have basically this part of the circuit here. I'm then going to add in a second light bulb down here. All right, that's going to end up being this resistor right here, and then a third light bulb over here, which will end up being this resistor right here. And now it's just a matter of connecting it with some wires. There are ways of doing this in less steps, but I'm going to try and do it so that it's pretty obvious how this circuit that I'm building here matches the circuit that you see in the diagram there. Okay, so we're going to add a few more wires here, make a connection to that point, and then bring it all back to the battery. And there we have our circuit. Now, you notice that all 3 light bulbs turn on, and that is an important piece. If you do it correctly, you should have all of the light bulbs on, and you're going to get a circuit like this. Now, in this lab, you're going to be measuring the current and voltage, and so for that, you're using the voltmeter to measure the voltage, and this ammeter here to measure the current. So when you go to measure the voltage across, say, one of these light bulbs, you're going to take these 2 probes and put one on each side of the light bulb, and you'll end up getting a voltage reading there. Don't worry about the negative signs, that part doesn't really matter. Just record the number itself. And then for the current reading, you're just going to use this current probe and you're just going to put it over the bulb itself, and we get an output of our current reading there. When you're done, you have 2 options. If you want to reset the whole circuit, you can hit this reset button here, and that's going to clear everything. But a lot of times it's going to make more sense for you to just modify your current circuit. So what you can do is you can either click on a certain element and hit this trash can here to get rid of that element, or if you just want to break a connection to add something else in, you can click on the connection and use the scissors, and that will open it up. And then let's say you need to add another light bulb in here, you could do that, make a new circuit, or whatever the case may be. But hopefully that gives you a nice overview of how exactly to work the simulator, and that's going to allow you to build all these circuits. In the end, each time you're really looking to measure the voltage and current on each light bulb acting as a resistor and the voltage and current on each battery. There are two parts. In the first part, you're constructing a bunch of series and parallel circuits that you see here. In the second part, you're constructing some more complicated circuits. And then there are some analysis questions to answer. Certainly feel free to email me, message me on Schoology with any questions you might have, but hopefully that gives you a nice overview of what you're doing for this lab and at least gets you started.